So the second album is called Lonerism, because again, he's kind of a loner. It really makes sense. Like when you think about like the time that you put into making this music and you're doing it by yourself, you're gonna be alone most of the fucking time. If this, like, you're just in a room surrounded by instruments all the time. Like you don't even have a drummer to just fuck around with. It's just you in a room forever.
Because he was the drummer in another band. And now what are you gonna do?
He's got nobody. He's got nobody but himself in his mind. He definitely has a vibe of like he's locked in a room looking out at the world. Like, why can't I be one of them?
Yeah.
Why can't I be a normal person?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because, Kevin, when his teacher was teaching math, you couldn't stop thinking about your song. That's why.
Here's the thing, Kev. Let me talk to you right now, Kev. This is a message for you. Normal people don't make music as good as you do.
That's right.
so I think it's a pretty even trade-off.
Yes, normal people are going to the mall.
Normal people are taking exams and really worried about them.
And Kev is up in the clouds with the song gods, which is like, I mean, guys, you got to check out this music. Like, we're talking about it like we know him personally, but this music's really great. Yeah,
he really lets the muses of the music flow through him. You know what I mean? His body is just a vessel for the vibrations of the world.
Yeah.
But so Lonerism comes out expanding on what happened in the first album and just getting better and better and getting bigger and bigger as it goes along.
For real. Now, I thought this was a New York band.
Really?
Like, you know, a couple years ago, like when I was introduced to them.
Yeah.
Like, I thought this was a New York band because, well, they reminded me of MGMT. They don't sound like them.
That was the other band. That was the other band the producer worked with.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah.
MGMT.
Because
Shout
I
out to
think
David.
They opened up for them or something like that. They're connected in many ways. Like so. Yeah. So they reminded me of MGMT, who is from here. You know what I'm saying? So I was just like, oh, well, it's another kind of like a hipster New York, you know, subculture that blows up into the main culture kind of sound, you know, but I had no idea, you know, that you guys knew Angus. No, I'm just kidding.
But it's not. And it's so funny because it's so outside of that.
Yeah.
Like it's so far away from that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, you think maybe the Australian thing has to kind of do with a little bit of his sense of like lonerism, if you will, just because it's so much more isolated than here. You know what I mean?
That is very, very true. I try to like visually imagine this Perth place and stuff like that because I've seen some TV shows that are set in like Australia or like New Zealand area and stuff like that, and I kind of know it is kind of dry in some of these areas and stuff like that, and kind of spaced out a lot, you know, miles between things. So I'm wondering if Perth is like that, but I think it probably does have to do with the topography of the land.
It's very possible. Yeah. You know, it's very possible. But I've never even been to Australia, so...
Me neither.
Tell us about Australia, people. Tell us in the comments.
I've got to say, I love the culture of everything that surrounds Tame Impala. I love that the unofficial members are people that are in other bands. Like, that's insane. Like, I've never heard of, like, anything like that. You know what I mean? Where it's just, like, imagine, like, the culture of, like, CBGBs, and it's just like, oh, yeah, well, Sting is backing up Blondie this week, and stuff like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Or, like, you know, just things like that. I could interchange way more people, but
and
I'm just saying.
Ramone also plays bass for the Talking Heads sometimes.
You know what I mean? Like, you know, things like that. So I think that would be... like a cool thing if it happened more often than not, but I'm okay with it being their only thing.
And I think that's as far as I understand it, that's just a byproduct of being from a place that's not very big
and heavy on musicians that are great.
Exactly.
Kind of like the AC/DC thing when you were talking about like when they formed Bon. And like the brother came home. And
there's only so many musicians in Perth that are like really like, I want to do music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like we were saying before, like they had that house where like all these musicians were just going in and out. So there really was like, I don't know how big the scene was in Perth, but I bet it was very strong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like all of those people knew each other.
Yeah. Yeah. I could see that.
Versus like perfect contrast, New York City. You know, you might know a lot of people, but the scene, it's too fucking big to know everybody. You're really not going to be that tight knit. Like if you're from a smaller place and there's only less people that are super dedicated to music and like music is my life, you're going to eventually be gravitated towards those people.
Right.
Whereas if you're at a place like this, there's fucking 10 million people here. It's like there's a million musicians. Like I'm not going to meet a million people in my life.
Exactly.
You know?
Exactly. Yeah. You could see someone at an open mic and never see them again in your life.
even if you really like them. And on the other end, there might be somebody that you would get along with super well, whose music you would really love, that you would just never cross paths with.
Right.
Because they might live uptown and you live in Brooklyn, or they're in the Bronx or whatever. And like, it's just too fucking big.
Right. That's true.
I'm assuming, again, I'm just assuming this because I've never been to Perth. It's definitely not as big as New York City.
Right.
But it's probably not a huge city.
Yeah, because they're so interchangeable, and like they've got like all the unofficial band members have got details in their own pages. Like I've been on their own Wikipedia pages, and they've got details of things that they've done. So it's not like oh, I just hired. Like,
they got credits.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like so, yeah. It's really interesting, and it's so true. Like New York is like a total contrast to that. Like, of course.